Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. Under the previous Biden administration, we had 0 trade deals. And in just 5 months, we're seeing more cooperation from Mexico and Canada as it relates to the border and fentanyl. UK, you have a trade deal there. China, we have a framework. Congratulations on the success in last night's meeting. India, Japan, they are now at the table, as are dozens of other countries. And I think it's really important as we approach that July 9th date there for lifting the hold or the pause on the tariffs, that we take into account that we do have these partners who are working with us in good faith. And I hope and I urge the administration to not reinstate the tariffs for the nations that are at the table, that are working with us to reduce the tariffs, the trade deficits, and increase our market access for our products. And I would just like to get your opinion on that, if you agree that we should have a more targeted approach. Let's focus on the most egregious offenders who are not as willing to work with us to rectify that.
Well, we are focusing on the most egregious. And there, as I've said, there are 18 important trading partners. Most of them account for approximately north of 90% of the trade deficit. So our largest trading partners are, many of them, the biggest problem. Many of them have, as I've said, have come with good offers and are working in good faith. It will be up to President Trump, but it is my belief that if someone is negotiating in good faith, that an extension will be possible.
That's great news.
And in conversations with USTR Ambassador Greer, it's my belief that with smaller countries where we have lower levels of trade, we may be able to do a one-size-fits-all regional deal. So that would cover a great deal of ground on
It's great, and I wish you a lot of success there, and I appreciate that. And if I also want to keep in mind that if we want to build in America, as the President, as you, as I, and this committee wants to do, we need to make sure that we have access to parts and supplies from abroad. So let's keep that in mind as well as we're moving forward with the tariff discussions. I'm concerned about tariffs on pharmaceuticals. In particular, it's an access issue, it's an affordability issue, it's a national security issue. As you know, right now we're relying heavily on foreign countries, particularly communist China. But domestic pharmaceutical production requires long-term investment, and to establish a secure and self-reliant supply chain here at home, it's something that you can't just flip the switch on. It does take time. And certainly the provisions you mentioned earlier that we put in our one big beautiful bill will help us get there, incentivize, expand facilities, build new facilities. But until we reach that full domestic production capability, the U.S. remains dangerously dependent on foreign sources for life-saving medicines and medical inputs. And so I hope that we'll take that into account when we look at tariffs and not place tariffs on pharmaceuticals that we desperately need here in the United States. I, alongside with my colleague, Congressman Schneider, we introduced bipartisan legislation, H.R. 2213, the Medical Supply Chain Resiliency Act. And we learned from COVID that we must, obviously, that our supply chain is too fragile, and we need to do what we can to make it more accessible, these pharmaceuticals. My legislation would address this by enhancing the President's ability to negotiate trade agreements with trusted trade partners to reduce or eliminate tariffs, quotas, and other barriers that create a disincentive to manufacturing here in the United States. It would ensure that critical medical goods and supplies and services are delivered safely, quickly, efficiently to patients here at home. And I hope that you will take a look at this bill. It has some good bipartisan support, good industry support, and it really does complement what we did in the one big beautiful bill to incentivize and give the President that flexibility to negotiate with those trading partners.
Yeah, Congresswoman, I could not agree with you more. The only good outcome from COVID was it showed us our strategic deficiencies in areas like semiconductors and especially pharma. As you mentioned, a large part of our pharma does come from the PRC. That actually gives them negotiating leverage. I think it would be a tragic mistake if they were ever to flip off that switch, but it's always there. They could. They flipped off other switches. India, who is a more reliable, durable partner, is also a large supplier, but we do need to bring that home.
Well, great. I look forward to working with you on that, and an endorsement from you of my legislation would be very welcome.
Good. Thank you for your leadership on that.
Thank you very much.